Hey guys, Gary J here again. Today we're looking at one of my favorite shotguns, and this is called the Ithaca Model 37 Featherweight Pump Shotgun. The Ithaca Model 37 Featherweight Pump Shotgun. And this is one of my favorite pump shotguns of all time right here. So let's talk a little bit about the history of Ithaca. A lot of times where I'm from, here in Georgia, we think of Remington, we think of Winchester, we may even think of Weatherby or Savage or Stevens or something like that. And some people never hear Ithaca for some reason that I talk to. Now, usually people who are into guns, they know, most all of the different manufacturers of these guns. But what's always interesting is to know the history of any particular gun that you have. What's the history of that gun? Now, if we look at Ithaca Company, they made double barrel shotguns. And those were some beautiful shotguns of that period of time. And Ithaca made those shotguns in 1883. Imagine that, 1883, they're making guns that far back. And so they're kind of in competition with Remington and Winchester, two big companies there. And they are trying to, stay afloat with them, play with the big dogs, I guess. And they're doing a pretty good job. Now, when you look at the early model shotguns, you got to think about John Browning. John Browning is kind of like the father of gun making and designing. He's always got, his finger in some part of it because he's just that incredible genius. He helped out Remington make their guns, and his ideas and concepts were used by others as well. In that period of time, the Ithaca 37 comes from the year 1937. So you think of Ithaca 37, you're thinking of 1937. A little history about that 1937 in a moment. But back in those days, you had the Winchester 12 model and the Winchester Model 97, which were extremely popular, and the Remington 31. These were very popular shotguns at that period of time, and that was kind of the competition that the Ithaca Model 37 would be going against. And so there was a fellow named Harry Howland, Howland. Now, Mr. Howland was an engineer for Ithaca. And so what he did was he took a Remington Model 17 and he examined that and he made some modifications, just 2 or 3 different modifications, it appears, on the Model 17, like the extractor and a couple other things. And he altered it enough in order to make the Ithaca Model 37 design. Anyway, after his alterations to the Remington Model 17, they made about 100 of the Ithaca Model 37. Now that was in 1932. They had 100 of these made. Didn't look quite like this, but they had 100 of these made. And then they realized that they had infringed on the patent rights of some of the parts and stuff of Remington. So, if Remington's got the license, you can't produce something without paying them a great royalty, and I guess the price was too high for them. So they waited from 1932 until the license expired as far as them able to not being able to use them. So they waited till 1937 before they could actually put this gun out and not infringe against the license of Remington. So this is why it's called the Model 37, because it came out in 1937. Actually, it was finished in 1932. Again, they could not go against the rights of the license of Remington. So it's called the 1937. And this is really a super light shotgun. Now, some people, in the shotgun world don't like super light shotguns because they kick a little bit harder. At least that's my experience. And I can tell you with this one, if you don't pull a shotgun really, firm to your shoulder, it's going to really hurt. So you really have to sink that stock into your shoulder really good when you shoot. And so that kind of began the history of the Model 37. And in 1938, they would give it the title of Featherweight. 1938, they gave it the title of Featherweight. This is a 12 gauge, but it feels like it's a 20 gauge. It's like smaller frame, it's a lot lighter. And just an incredible gun for what its use is. Now, in 1941, the war began. World War II began, and in 1942, the government needed all the shotguns and rifles that they could get, while Winchester and Remington supplied the military with a lot of their shotguns and to law enforcement and so forth. They still needed more, evidently. And so the government made a contract with Ithaca to make their shotguns. So in World War II, 1942, into the 1960s, a lot of Ithaca shotguns were made specifically for war times. They were designed differently somewhat than this. And so it would go from World War II into the Vietnam era, Korea, Vietnam. And so, especially in law enforcement, even like in LA, Los Angeles, California, the police department from the 1940s to the 1990s, this was one of their main go-to shotguns, with the Ithaca pump shotgun, which is pretty interesting to know. And so we get a little bit of an idea of Ithaca's concept of building this particular gun and how they would use it. But really, in the mind of the creators and makers of the Ithaca Model 37, they really wanted to make it just for the sportsmen and not for the military as much. Of course, the military paid good. These guns sold for about $37 to the $37 each when it was sold to the military. So Ithaca did make a good bit of money off of these guns, and really that's kind of the market, I think, with a lot of guns back in those days. And so these are proven shotguns in war times, because they get a lot of abuse in war, So, if you can get a gun or a rifle that has proven itself by being in war, and people still want that gun after they get out of the war, then you've got a really good gun. So Ithaca has a really great reputation. It's not only a gun that's very functional, not just for sportsmen and hunters and the like, but also for the military use as well. Again, the military Ithacas are a little bit different design. If you look at the receiver right here, you'll notice there's something very special, very unique about that receiver. Besides the fact that it's cut out of a 7-pound piece of billet steel. Now, a piece of billet steel is just a round piece of steel, or a square piece of steel, probably in this case, where they machine that to make that receiver right here. But notice what's especially different on the Ithaca, which separates it from the Remington and the Winchester shotguns. Got something very unique right there. As you may notice up here on the receiver, there is no bolt. That usually have a bolt. You pull that bolt back to put your shell in. These don't have that. They don't have it on the right side. They don't have it on the left side. And that what separates Ithaca from Winchester or Remington and most other shotguns, because you load it from the bottom, and I'll show you how. And when it kicks out the shell, you can't kick it out where the bolt would be. It has to kick the shell out the bottom. So it kicks out the shell out the bottom first, and then reloads the shell in the tubular magazine right here where that forearm is. So it can actually kick that shell out the bottom and then reload it instantly right behind that when you pull back on the pump forearm. So that's another interesting thing right there. The second thing besides the shells coming out is that they go toward your feet, in front of your feet, and so they're out of the way. They're not going to the right of your gun and hitting somebody or something like that. Another great thing about it is that because the shells come downward, this is really kind of a shotgun where if you're right-handed, you don't have a problem with it because the shells come down. You don't have a bolt. If you're left-handed, you can shoot this gun just as easily because you don't have a bolt. Now, I really never thought about it much till I saw my one of my cousins who was left-handed. And you know, if you have a bolt action rifle, the bolt's usually on the right hand of the gun, the rifle. And if you're left-handed, it's backwards to you. And so you have to kind of learn to shoot right-handed unless you buy a bolt action that has the bolt on the left side for a lefty. There are more right-handed people. A majority of people are right-handed, not left-handed. That's why things are usually tailored toward right-handed people. So this was the great thing about Ithaca. I mean, if you're left-handed or right-handed, it didn't make any difference with this shotgun. Where all other shotguns, you've got the bolt mainly on the right-hand side, unless you special order a lefty rifle or shotgun. So this is a real neat thing about the Model 37. So that's a little history about the Model 37 and why it is such a popular shotgun even today. Now the company has gone through maybe 3 or 4 different hands since the beginning of the company, and today they still make them. Now they make one company, it's called Ithaca Gun Company today, which is not the original Ithaca Gun Company, but they bought out everything with Ithaca. Today they make a Model 37 Featherweight too. Now the new Ithaca Model 37 has some new and improved things done to it. That shotgun runs between about $900 to $1,500 depending on what grade you get on that. I want to mention too that these were made in a 12 gauge, 16 gauge, 20 gauge. Okay guys, we're looking at the stock on the Ithaca 37 Featherweight, and this is kind of a simple stock. It's got nice checkering to it, and let's look at this plate here. That's a pretty typical plate right there, and the butt plate is pretty average looking. And then we look at the fore-end here. Now this is one of the things that really attracted me to this gun, is this ribbed fore-end. Isn't that beautifully done? That is so neat. And the workmanship here, the way they did that is really nice on the fore-end, and the way that they've got it locked in here. And I like this right here. This is a little different than most of your cap ends on on some of the other types of pump action. And so this is locked in really good, and I like that workmanship right there. That is really nice. So the other side of the gun looks pretty much the same, and we see the wood here fits perfectly. They did a good job of that, and looking at the top of that, see a little bit of color in that wood right there, which is really pretty, and how this is feathered out a little bit. Look at this other side of the stock here. Again, that's pretty wood right there. And again, look at the checkering right here. All this is generally hand checkered right here. If you ever tried hand checkering, it's a job. And looking back at the forend, this is just beautiful to me right here. This is first time I ever saw Ithaca featherweight with the rib forend. I thought, man, that's just, I don't know what it is about it, but it's just artistic to me or something. But it is just beautiful. Really like that. And let's take a look at the barrel now. Okay, we're going to look at the barrel right here. And that's Ithaca Gun Company. And the patent number, model 37. Okay, we're looking at the other side of the barrel here. And that beautiful forend. I don't really see any writing on the barrel on this side. A lot of times you do have writing on that side. And again, this right here is just from being inside this rubber piece right here. And looking at our barrel here, focus, like a ball bearing. Now some of these come with ventilated ribs too. This is an older version, and I like kind of the older version. This is simple in a way too. Now look at that nice stock there. Kind of a no thrills type shotgun here. Let's look at this. And right here we're looking at the receiver on the other side. And we've got ducks here flying. You shoot your ducks with your 12 gauge here. Again, on this lightweight, you really have to be careful. Pull it close to your shoulder firm, because this thing kicks because it's so light. And notice this screw here. It's got a locking screw holding that so it can't come undone. And that's a pretty neat feature right there. Yeah, but I kind of like this little scroll work right here that they did on that. So that looks like what? Pheasant, grouse, something like that, flying up. And really like the dog. The only thing I would like maybe better if it was engraved a little bit deeper, kind of like the Browning A5. But yeah, that's nice. Okay, guys. You have a little lever right here. You push this. Okay. If you want to cock this gun back, if you want to pull the forearm back to you, it won't come back unless you press this upward. Okay. Pressing this upward, it only goes about a 1/4 inch. And now you can, as long as you hold that down, you can cock it back and forth. Okay. So for these, this is what you have to do. again, is push that down, and you can shoot it that way. Throw out the other shell. Okay, so that's what that does. And you see our safety right here. Get a little bit closer so you can see it. The safety right here. Just push that one side and the other, slide and block. And this is kind of what our receiver looks like here. Now, we don't have a bolt, say, on either side. There's no bolt. So you want to load your shotgun, take your shell. These are live, but we'll put the safety on. Okay, you can see inside the breech here, the bolt right here. And the way you load these, just throw your shell right here and push like that. Okay, so now you got two in here. Now generally there's a plug in here, so you can't put more than two, especially in Georgia. Okay, so you see your two shells right there, and if I pull on this, it doesn't work, because in order to put one in the barrel right here, I've got, again, to pull up on this. It only goes about a 1/4 inch, if that far. Pull on that. Now, I've got one in the barrel, okay? And if I want to eject that one, then watch where it comes out the bottom of the gun right here. Let me turn it right here so you can see it. I'm trying to see this camera at the same time. Okay. That threw another one back in. And let me do that one more time. Take your shell, put it in here, pull this up right here, and pull the forearm to you, and see where the shell is, and just push it forward. Okay. Now I want to expel this. I'm going to do it in slow motion here. That's slow motion. It actually throws it out. That's slow motion. Now when it throws that one out, it automatically, it's timed just perfectly. Once it throws that one out, the one that's in the magazine here, the tubular magazine, it will throw it up. So when you go forward. Now when you're shooting a pump shotgun, don't shoot it like this. Slow motion. Don't do that, because you're going to run into trouble. When you get ready to shoot and you pull the trigger, boom, throw it. Pull it back to you. You don't have to do it super fast or super hard, but you got to do it at a good moderate speed, okay, in order to eject the shells properly out of it. So that's kind of how that works. And I'll show you another thing too. Okay, I want to show you something else with this. When you put your shell in here, that's one, that's two, and now in order to, you can only put two in here because it's got a plug in here. So right here we pull up on that, and now we have a shell in the barrel. Now we take another shell here and put in here. So now we have 3 shells in here. Now let's say we go hunting and we don't shoot our gun, or we shot our gun but we have it fully loaded and we want to unload this gun. How do you unload this gun? Well, one way to unload this shotgun is, again, to pull right here and go 1, 2, 3. And then do that 2 or 3 times more, make sure. And then you can look, turn it and look and make sure you don't have anything in the barrel or anything in the tubular magazine. So some people say that makes a lot of noise. They don't like doing that. So there's another way. So here is maybe a quicker way. Okay, now we have 2 in the tubular magazine and we have 1 here in the barrel. So how do you do this in a quiet way or a halfway quiet way? Right here, see if you can see that. Right here is a metal prong, and there's one identical to it on the other side. I don't know if that's focused or not, but there's a prong right here and one right here. And what you do then is pretty simple. You press on this prong because it makes a little loop out like this right here. Just press on that and that shell comes out very easily. Press on it again right beside the shotgun shell. Put your thumb all the way up there. Press it. And that comes out. So you didn't make any noise. You didn't have to cock it back. But you still got one here. And of course, to get that one out, you've got to press your button here. And even in slow motion, this thing really throws out the shell. That lets me know my injector is working really good. And there's a serial number right there. Maybe you can see that. So that's how you load and unload this shotgun. Now, we do that, make sure there's no more shells in it. Then we do a visual to make sure that there's no shells in it. I can see in the barrel, and I can see this plug right here. So there's nothing in here. Now, this can shoot a little bit like an automatic shotgun. This model here, if you hold the trigger down, let's say you've got 2 shells here in the tubular magazine, and you've got 1 in the barrel, and there's a dove coming by. You just grab the trigger and hold it down. When you get ready to shoot, you don't hold it down initially. When you get ready to shoot and you're aiming at that dove going by, you pull the trigger, boom, keep the trigger down, don't let go of it. And so when you do that and you pull back, boom, boom. So if you hold the trigger down, every time you cock it and throw it forward, it's going to shoot. So you could be leading that dove, I'll say like 2 or 3 doves. You could be leading them like you pull the trigger, boom, 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 like that. Kind of like the rifleman a little bit. So that's another thing you can do with some of these right here. Just that first shot, don't let up on the trigger. Just hold it down on that first shot. And every time you pull it back, it'll shoot. Okay. So maybe that helps you a little bit on understanding the Ithaca Model 37 Featherweight pump. Very ingenious idea. Very great, awesome gun right here, guys. So I hope that gives you a little idea of the beauty of the Ithaca Model 37. Thanks for watching. Gary J.